You record? Yeah.
There we go. I'm going to flash up a picture of these four individuals. Let me do that real quick. Crap.
Debbie.
These four generals. I don't know if you can see this. Are you able to see that?
Yeah.
Can you zoom in?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the same map we saw before, okay? You can see Jerusalem is here. This was Israel. This is what is modern day Iraq or Daniel's time Babylon. Over here to the right was the Medes and Persians, which used to stretch here. This was, I can't remember what that was.
Macedonia.
And this is Greece. So this is what happens. There's four prominent kings, or I'm going to say generals in his army. And if you notice the color coordination, the first one is Ptolemies, I believe is how you say it. He owns this area down south where Egypt is. He also takes what is modern day Israel up into Syria. Although Damascus seems to be in the white area, which is Syria. But he, in essence, owns this strip here, this huge area. Second guy is the guy that owns this ginormous territory, Second General Seleucidae, I believe is how you say it. He owns this. This person up here, which is Lysimachus, he owns this place called Thrace. And a lot of these towns where Paul had his ministry in the future. And then the last guy, actually the last guy's not mentioned here. I can't remember. I think I have.
Yeah, they just said Macedonia.
Yeah, the last guy's name is Cassander. He controls Macedonia and Greece. So everything, I think, from here on to where we're going to stop today involves these four guys and involves this battle between, in some form or fashion, between two of the four.
Okay.
So let me leave that up there for a second.
And they were all under Alexander the Great?
They seem to be four of his generals.
Okay.
They came after him, right?
How
did they divide up the land?
History has these four were the ones that took control of the kingdom that he owned at one point, those four guys. I don't know how they actually divided it or whatever, but it was pretty substantial territory, as you can see.
Yeah.
But one thing we find over the course of time, they kind of all took over and formed their own pseudo kingdom. So it wasn't Greece per se, but it ended up being, although it may have been called Greece, there was battles with each other over territories and crap like that.
What's crazy is that Greece is so small compared to this now.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said, yeah, you're right.
It's weird.
Somebody read 9 and 10.
Out of one of them came another horn, which started small but grew in power to the south and to the east and toward the beautiful land. It grew until it reached the host of the heavens, and it threw some of the starry host down to the earth and trampled on them.
We have another little horn. We had one last chapter, which we speculated was Antichrist. And which nation last chapter did the little horn seem to come out of?
Iran.
What would be remember we in the statue? One was, remember in the statue, well, the statue is not a good example, the beast.
The monster.
The
Roman Empire.
Yeah.
I was going to say Roman.
Yeah.
It's like we're guessing.
Right.
I was trying to recall, like in my head.
Nikki said it's not like you are guessing. Whatever.
So last week the little horn, and if the symbology and how it's understood is the little horn came out of some future branch or reoccurrence of the Roman Empire, but that was just a guess because we said Jesus came out of the Roman Empire because that's when he was born in that period of time. And I thought well, maybe it's a spiritual kingdom that is being referred to last week. But this week, it seems as if the four generals are the ones taking over. And then from one of these four notable ones or horns, this little horn seems to arise. So it seems this week, instead of it being Rome, it suggests Greece, right?
Yeah.
So I just made mention of the Roman Empire, or potentially the feet or iron and clay feet of the statue in chapter 2. If you can think back, that eventually the rock cut without hands fell on it and destroyed the whole statue.
Right.
So we have, as we're looking at this picture, and I don't know if did I get rid of that picture?
Yeah.
So in this picture, which two of the four? Well, actually, you know what? Let's talk about verse 9. It says, out of one of these comes this little horn, which grows exceedingly towards the south, towards the east, and towards the glorious land.
What's the beautiful land? Because I noticed it was capitalized.
I think that's a reference to God's land, or
okay,
Israel,
like Israel, Jerusalem. And the only thing I was thinking is, if Greece is here in purple area, the original Greece, south of that would be like Egypt, and west of that, east of that, I'm sorry, would be this whole territory over here, and including this portion of green and the orange, and then certainly the glorious land would be the pink. So I'm thinking it's referring to the horn, the little horn or whatever, that takes over this whole area here. And in verse 10, it says, it grew great even to the host of heaven. So it suggests here, but we have four generals by the colors here. Which generals do you think that this little horn might have popped out of? Any thoughts?
where is current day Greece? Is it the green?
Purple.
Current day?
Yeah, purple would be Athens here. You probably can't see it, but it says Athens. Corinthians is somewhere here.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah. So we have four generals. The horn pops out of one of them. We could probably make an educated guess which two it could potentially pop out of. Any thoughts? Because remember, they go towards the glorious land, they go to the east, and they go to the south. So probably, we could probably narrow it down to three, but more likely than probably one or two, we could probably say.
Like the orange and the pink?
Yeah, that would be my guess. And it makes mention in verse 10, it grew great, this little horn is, even to the hosts of heaven, some of the stars it threw to the ground and trampled on them.
What does that mean?
Well, let me just...
So is this referencing maybe I was so wrong, but is this referencing like Jesus?
No, I think this references potentially, it's zooming in on, taking a magnifying glass, and we're looking at, from the statue back in Daniel 2, we're looking at the bronze. And we're looking at it closer with a magnifying glass. I think that's what's happening. Or you could say the leopard from last week.
What does it mean, though, that he cast down some of the hosts and of the stars in the ground and stamped on them? What's that mean?
Well, I think what we're going to see is it'll make a little more sense. But once we get to, I think, 15 or 16, we'll stop. But it'll make a little more sense in just a minute who that may be referring to.
Okay.
But it's still up for debate, but history and modern day prophecy, a lot of them think what I'm about to say, and I don't know if it's correct or not. But
okay.
This is so we just talked about which two nations which two generals it might refer to, and we said the orange and the pink, right?
Mhm.
Now, this is from a Christian website. This is what it says. I'm just quoting a short passage, which says it a lot better than I can. It says, after Alexander died, his empire was divided into 4 parts, each one ruled by one of his generals. For the next century and a half, the Seleucids, or Seleucids, which is in Syria, and the Ptolemies, which is in Egypt, fought each other, and in the process fought for the control of Palestine. Where's Palestine? Any ideas?
Right between them.
Right here. Right in Jerusalem would have been part of Palestine at the time. That was the name of it. So orange and pink, these two generals, their kingdom over time, fought for this little strip of land here.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Well, it's pink. So it looks like the pink one.
You would think, Dee, in verse 10, little horn waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and of the stars it cast to the ground and tramples them. What does that mean? Well, history says the little horn came from the Orange Kingdom, which would be Seleucidae, this area. So somehow the little skirmishes they were having with their pink countrymen or what have you,
Buddies, buddies.
They ended up winning. Okay, now who comes? So the bigger question is, let's read 11 and 12 and we'll talk about who this may be referring to.
Deb, do you want to read?
Yeah, sorry. We're Daniel 8:11.
Yeah, and 12.
It set itself up to be as great as the commander of the army of the Lord.
What?
It took away the daily sacrifice from the Lord, and his sanctuary was thrown down. Because of rebellion, the Lord's people and the daily sacrifice were given over to it. It prospered in everything it did, and the truth was thrown to the ground.
So the question is, who is this? We know which, we're pretty sure he came from the pink or from this Seleucidas. Who is this? Now, let's read verse 23, maybe.
So when I read this earlier, I was like, it took away the daily sacrifice from the Lord. And I was reading it as like, you know how they used to do sacrifices, and I was thinking, well, they no longer had to do it. But then I was so confused as to how, when I was thinking it was Jesus, and I was like, well, maybe, Daniel was he in the bloodline, or David was?
David was. I don't know. I don't know if Daniel was in the bloodline. I haven't read about him in any of them.
Yeah.
But then my question, I'm sorry, I'm probably making it more confusing, but then my question was, what does it mean it threw it to the ground? I'm like, I thought this was a good thing. So I was clearly wrong.
Yeah, it's considered, well, somebody from the line of Seleucus, however you say that, one of his king lines, somebody that was in his, this went on for, hundreds of years, I believe.
Hundreds of years?
Well, these kingdoms, were basically entrenched, these 4 generals, and they created their own little kingdoms, so to speak, and fought with one another, even though they're of the same nation, right? So of the pink, there arose one of the kings in succession who we're about to read about. Somebody read verse 23, though.
Got it. In the latter part of their reign, when rebels have become completely wicked, a fierce-looking king, a master of intrigue, will arise.
This seems to be this successor. You probably, Deb, I know you've heard of him. I've heard you mention him before, but it's Antiochus Epiphanes is what's his name. And he was the 8th ruler from the original king or general that was given ownership or rulership of that Orange Kingdom. So he eventually was given or fought with his brothers down in this Egypt area and eventually took over this area. And his name is Antiochus or Antiochus Epiphanes. Verse 11 says he took away the continual burnt offering in the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Now, where might this be that he would take away a continual burnt offering and sacrifices?
So he
Sounds like
destroyed
the
the temple.
Yes.
The Ark of the
Ark.
Covenant.
Yeah, it sounds like it was in the temple. So he went in the temple, and in verse 12 it says a host will be given over it together with the regular burnt offerings because of his transgression. So Antiochus Epiphanes committed transgressions to the temple of God, and it says, and it will throw truth to the ground. So he seemed to have gone in to the temple and caused all kinds of havoc. Burnt offerings are stopped because of rebellion. Truth is thrown to the ground. Whose truth?
God's truth.
Right.
God.
And it says a host is given over to it, or a war army. So history says he's the guy that did this, even though this passage may have a greater fulfillment as well. But this is something I copied out of a commentary about this guy, Antiochus Epiphanes, the guy that came from the Pink Kingdom, that was, the eighth seed, so to speak, from this Seleucidus guy who was one of the Alexander the Great generals. It says the sacrifice that was offered daily in the temple, morning and evening, was suspended. So this is after he went into Jerusalem. It says a full account of this can be found in a book called Maccabees, or 1 Maccabees. Which is
I've heard of Maccabees.
It's one of those other, non-biblical texts that has a lot of historical history in it and stuff.
The Jews, don't they use that?
The Jews, there was a Jewish sect called the Jewish Maccabees, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So in the execution of the purpose of Antiochus, he entered the sanctuary and took away the golden altar, the candlestick and all the vessels therein, and the table of showbread, and the pouring vessels, etc., and stripped the temple of all its ornament gold. After 2 years, he again visited the city and smote its sword and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils, he set it on fire and pulled down the walls thereof on every side. Everything in Jerusalem was made desolate. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. Subsequently, by a solemn edict and by more decisive acts, he put a period to the worship of God in the temple and polluted and defiled every part of it. And I think he also did something where he sprinkled pig's blood on the altars, something like that.
How could he do that if, say somebody wasn't holy, they would get pulled out and they'd be dead?
Right.
I don't know.
Like,
why didn't God show them dead? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, but if you look at it, there were warnings, and the Jews, they always were warned, and they are a prototype of us, of course, but they were always warned. Guys, turn away from what you're doing and back to me. And they ignored him. And then time after time, there were people sent as his arm, almost God's arm. It's like, this is what happens when you don't listen, or you'd stop following me, because they always did.
Agreed. What's funny? Other nations seem like they went in there and took the gold and silver. I know Nebuchadnezzar did, but it doesn't seem to mention him as having desecrated it, even though he went right in and took all the cups and dishes and everything else. So again, this is trying to read prophecy and say, okay, what in history may fit? This seems to fit.
Yeah.
Until we get a little further. Somebody wants to read 13 and 14.
What was it? Which one are we at?
13, 14.
13. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to him, how long will it take for the vision to be fulfilled? The vision concerning the daily sacrifice, the rebellion that caused desolation, the surrender of the sanctuary, and the trampling underfoot of the Lord's people. He said to me, it will take 2,300 evenings and mornings. Then the sanctuary will be reconsecrated.
So almost like cleansed or something. So Daniel hears these two beings, holy beings, speaking, one saying to the other, how long shall this last? This is how I interpret it. How long is this event going to happen for? Concerning the burnt offering, I'm guessing it ending, the transgression that makes the whole sanctuary desolate, and the giving over the sanctuary, and for the host to be trampled underfoot. Now, why do you suppose those holy ones asked this question? You suppose they didn't know?
I don't know. Probably so we would know.
Yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Daniel's like totally perplexed. So the damage is done for 2,300 days, and then the sanctuary is clean. 2,300 days is 6 years, 3 months, and 18 days, or 6 years and 110 days, or here's another question: is at some places in the Bible, day is as a year, and like Revelation, is that what they mean? Is it 2,300 years?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
Say that again, Dara.
Is it? I just said, is it 20? It says 2,300 days, but some places a day is 1,000 years.
Right.
Other places in Revelation, a day is a year. I don't know if we've gotten to a place in Daniel up to this point where a day was anything more than a day that we took notice of.
And
Does
their
it
calendar
fit
could
in
have been
history?
different.
Like that?
Does it fit in history if you count forward, that 6 year and something period of time? What happened to this persecutor of the Jews?
I think there's great debate on this because there isn't anything that's obvious. So you can't just say how many days, because there were Grecian calendars, there was calendars that the Jews would go by. There were some calendars that instead of 365, they used 360 days. There's a lot of questions as to, is this really Antiochus? It seems like it fits. But when I got to the point and I looked up 2,300, I couldn't figure out because there's such a great debate on who is this talking about. And so I was going to, in essence, not stop at this verse, because we could probably continue up through the end of 17 if somebody wants to read 15 through 17.
Well, can I just say something first?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If it is years, if it's a day is like 1,000 years, that would bring us up to what?
I think
22,000 something, right?
I think when I got to this point and I was like, this seems so simple at this point. And when I saw the 2,300 and saw, I don't know what it's referring to. How long does Antiochus cause the sanctuary to be desolate?
Right. But I mean, if you back out 160 some years, right? That was when that was his reign, the end of his reign. But I mean, and then add 2,000, it takes us up to about 21.
Right. And wait,
this year? Is that what you're saying?
No, not 2021.
2,100.
2,100.
2,100 and change.
And wait, the temple's not consecrated yet, is it?
No, there's no temple in Israel, but it's not, that may not be that temple.
Might not be that temple.
Maybe
What if
it's
it's Jesus?
You know what?
Right.
You know what's
Right.
funny? if you found out the date of this, okay, you said, okay, like you're saying, because his reign, Antiochus, I had it written down here as being 176 to 164. So let's choose 170 because it makes it nice and simple. If you just subtract 170 from 2300, you come out with 2130.
Right. That's what I was saying.
So
it would be 2100, right?
Would be 2130.
2130. So 9 years from now,
plus or minus 30 years.
So 9 years from now, is the temple going to be cleansed? I don't
know. No, we're not 2100. We're still in
109 years.
Oh, 100. I'm sorry,
109 years.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be. That's what I had originally thought, because you know how in these chapters, God takes a liberty in Daniel's visions of skipping like 1,000 years from like the Roman Jesus and the Romans when he was born to here we are, and there's still no toes, or you're still trying to say, well, how do we fit that back in? It very well could be. He could come within the next 110 years. But somebody had said something about which sanctuary. I think it starts off talking about the physical sanctuary in Jerusalem. I believe it's probably jumped forward into his spiritual sanctuary, which gets polluted before he comes, and he comes to cleanse it. That's what I think. But somebody read 15 through 17.
While I, Daniel, was watching the vision and trying to understand it, there before me stood one who looked like a man. He heard a voice, and I heard a voice from Ulai, calling Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of the vision. As he came near the place where I was standing, I was terrified and fell prostrate. Son of man, he said to me, understand that the vision concerns the time of the end. Oh.
So which time of the end are we talking about? And by the way, who do you think the Son of Man is here?
I think he was talking to Daniel, but the Son of Man is Jesus.
Right. He sees in the appearance of one like a man. I'm thinking 15, that's probably Jesus. And it's also probably Jesus who tells Gabriel what to do. But I wonder if 17, the time of the end, as Debbie had said, does refer to the end of his covenant, Jesus's covenant, and that may be why Jesus shows up here. But there's no real way to know for sure. Now we could continue this if we have time and finish out the chapter. It's up to you guys. It's not that many verses. There's like 8 or 9 verses left.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. While he was speaking to me, I was in a deep sleep with my feet down, and then he touched me and raised me to my feet. He said, I'm going to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath, because the vision concerns the appointed time of the end. The two-horned ram that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat is the king of Greece, and the large horn between its eyes is king. The 4 horns that replace the one that was broken off represent 4 kingdoms that will emerge from his nation, but will not have the same power. In the latter part of their reign, when rebels have become completely wicked, a fierce-looking king, a master of intrigue, will arrive. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. Astounding devastation, and will succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy those who are mighty, the holy people. He will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many and take his stand against the Prince of Princes. Yet he will be destroyed, but not by human power. evenings and mornings that has been given to you is true, but seal up the vision, for it concerns the distant future. What? I, Daniel, was worn out. I lay exhausted for several days, and then I got up and went about the king's business. I was appalled by the vision. It was beyond understanding.
Wasn't he told to seal up his last thing too? And he wrote it in the Bible.
Was it? I don't remember.
What?
What did he do?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe he sealed up. Maybe he had what it was and he didn't tell us. He sealed it up. He just described it.
He left there where pieces are missing.
So does God tell him a vision? And then we sit here and we discuss it. He describes natural history, events that happen in the next 200-300 years. But this little horn that he says comes up from Greece, or some latter version of Greece. And then he describes what seems to be the Antichrist.
Right.
Who goes in and desecrates his temple. Now, Antiochus happened 70 years or so before Jesus even was born. But Jesus in the New Testament refers to, I believe he refers to this person as one of those passages in the Gospels do you know what I'm talking about? Anybody know exactly?
Desecration that causes that one?
Yeah, desecration. Let me just look that up.
Is it Matthew 24 or 20?
It's the one where he says, let the reader understand, and you're like,
Yeah.
We don't understand.
You're like, what?
but is the dream that Daniel is referring to been given, but God makes the last part very vague, but he's referring to something that physically happened in Antiochus's day, long after Daniel would have died, but also happens to his second covenant people at the end of their period of time. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it happens to the old covenant or first covenant and the second covenant, because they've always followed the same patterns. Is maybe that's why Jesus was saying that.
Right.
I think they always follow the same patterns. Always. We do.
And
Right.
I could tell you guys where it is if you want to turn to it, because Jesus does seem to refer to it in where is it? Is it Luke? Oh, I looked up desolate.
Desolation. Matthew 24:15, Mark 13:14. He says it in both of the Gospels.
What is Matthew? What is he saying?
When you see this, when you see standing in the holy place, the abomination that causes desolation, is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
And then Mark 13:14 says, when you see the abomination that causes desolation, standing where it does not belong, let the reader understand.
Right, because what are we supposed to understand? That he's talking about his second coming in both of those chapters.
Yeah.
Or second coming, that event happens again, is what his point seems to be. But the dream that he gives Daniel seems to follows one pattern, but then he seems to jump. Or maybe part of the vision is the
Like you mean actual, and then he jumps to spiritual.
Yes, that's what I'm guessing, if that makes sense. So then
Yeah.
the natural did happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know if anybody really knows. Maybe the 2300 is as simple as years.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll know, because most of us won't be alive 100 years from now.
And if no one knows the time, would he tell us exactly how many years? Not even
The
Jesus.
day or the hour. He told us
Right.
the year. He said nobody knows the day or the hour.
Not even me, but only my
Right.
father.
It's only the Father that knows that, but he didn't say the year. Maybe he's telling us.
And
Let
he
the reader-
called these days. He didn't call them years. He called them days.
Yeah, but a day is like 1,000 years.
Well, then 1,000 times 2,300 is a lot more than.
23,000, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, wow.
No, it's like years. A day is a year. You just put the year at the end of that, 2,300 years.
Okay. All right.
In Revelation, it does refer to days as years. He's left these things so vague. God has, but I do think he expects us to know the season, and I think most of us would say, well, my idea of a season might be 3 or 4 years, maybe 10 years. His idea of a season might be 200 years or 100 years.
Yeah.
Because I think I think we all see the seasons are really getting wicked right now. But
yeah.
So I don't think I think like, if you took a magnifying glass and looked at the 2300, there's a lot of interesting stuff there, but I don't think that anyone knows, because I think God kept it intentionally hidden, like Daniel said, until the end or close to it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's I think is close to what's being said. I think it must be natural, then it follows with the spiritual thing.
Yeah.
The only thing you can say.
Right.
I really got that really wrong.
It's hard to understand, Meg. I was doing something with a couple buddies yesterday in Romans, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck Paul's talking about here. He's so...
Paul's confusing to me.
Yeah, me too.
Very confusing.
Me too.
I think that often by what I read, and I think, how can I ever understand this?
I'm reading.
Go ahead.
No, I'm reading. Who's the guy that cuts his hair? I'm like, gosh, he got like tricked by 2 women. I don't know. I'm like, what is going on? Just like when you read the Bible, you're like, this is like, oof.
Yeah.
And then I get confused. I'm like, wait, is this a man of God? Like,
Well,
Right.
right. Periodically he is. I mean, he gets his strength back at the end, kills them all. But
Yeah, he's with prostitutes. What kind of man?
yeah,
is
yeah.
dudes.
I mean,
And then she like tricks him like 5 times. Not even tricks him.
nagged him
Like,
like
what a dopey man.
Nagged him to death.
yeah, you woke up. Like, wouldn't you, or wake? I don't even know, but like, wouldn't you by the 3rd time the girl tries to tie his hands up, like after, like, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
Told me
How did
once,
you-
Follow
shame
through
on
on
you.
everything he
Told me
said
twice,
would make
shame
him
on me.
weak. And then after she does everything he tells her, he tells her the truth. Like, that's a dopey man for you, but you know what? That was his weakness.
Yeah, that's true. See?
But why did God let some people who made a mistake get eaten by lions, and then he yet let Samson get away with all he got away with?
Right.
I feel like Samson didn't have an evil heart.
Samson didn't get away with it.
No.
He got his eyes gouged out.
And
That's
Samson ended up chained and made fun of with no eyes.
But why is he listed?
Oh.
Why is he listed in the Hall of Shame or Fame? And
Right.
Hall of Fame for faith.
Yeah,
Hall of
Yeah,
Fame.
because eventually he got his faith. I think he is a lot like we are. I mean, if you think about it, we go through periods of time where, our faith is strong and then we get distracted and pulled away by life
And
and
tricked.
by whatever it is that is our week.
Tricked because we
we are easily tricked, but he's a picture of what we do throughout life. I mean, I hope I always end up like Samson, strong at the end.
Me too.
Like, okay, I have faith. God, give me faith. I'll pull this big building down on their head, which is what he did.
We're less than a minute, guys, just so you know.
You want to get back on, or are you done?
If you want to, I'm done.
Okay.
I'm gonna go. I'm so tired.
I'm tired too.
All
Good
right.
night,
This is a good way to keep us
Love
directed.
you all.
I guess we are done, man.
Keep us focused.
I may take the week off next week. We'll see.
That's cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, guys.
Thanks,
Have a good
Dad.
week.
Love you.
Love you guys.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.